my sons got to the point where they said, Dad, we're so tired of trying to walk in your footsteps. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, everyone expects us to be like you. And it got so bad, Scott, that, they were in college. They ended up dropping out of college and they went to the Marine Corps together. They said, Dad, we wanted to do something you never did. You never went to the military. And because we did that, we knew we could do that and not be compared to you. I had to make sure that I wasn't forcing who I was on them. Right. And as a dad, you want to see some of yourself in your sons, but you also have to realize they're their own people. They have their own journey, they have their own race to run.
I remember I did all 4 of my grandparents' eulogies.
Mm.
And it was something that I'm so grateful for now, but it was also extremely difficult. And what's funny is my dad's father was probably the one I was the least close to, but it was the hardest to do because of the pain that my father and him had shared. And so my dad had given me a letter. The night before, I told my uncle, my dad, just the 2 of them, that I'm happy to do this. I do this. I'm not good at, I can't woodwork. I can't make stuff. I'm not good at things, but I can talk. And so if you want me to do a eulogy or you want me to say a few words, I'll do it, but I don't want to supersede you 2. And they both got super frustrated with me. I mean, typical male aggression, non-dealing with their emotions. They were not happy with me. And the next morning, they both gave me written statements to read. And my uncle's was like 3 or 4 lines, and my dad's was like 2.5 pages. And I couldn't get through the first paragraph of my dad's without breaking down myself, because of understanding the relationship between him and his father, and
Yep.
therefore him and I. It explained so much. It was like a cheat code. So having done that, it was so interesting to me. But our role as that first was so powerful and such an identity driver for me. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And unfortunately, I lost my dad at 28 when I was 28 years old. He was 56. And so much of this journey I've had to do kind of without that mentoring, that guidance. Now, again, I got it from other folks, male leaders and mentors in my life, but it was a challenge. But yeah, I think that was pre-leadership training without even realizing it.
Mm. How did you change after you lost your father?
Gosh, it was 2 things. One, I took on this whole dynamic of kind of being the head of the family. My father was the, de facto head of the family. I don't want to call it a crime family type thing, but it
Yeah.
was, he was the head.
Patriarch. He was
He
a
was the
patriarch.
patriarch, exactly. And because at that level I achieved a decent amount of success, both professionally, financially, and was looked up to, I kind of took on that role. So part of me was the new, patriarch of the family. The other part was lost because I didn't have a clue about certain things. At 28, my kids were probably, 4, 5, 6, 7. I had questions that I couldn't get answers to. As I got older as a man, things happen and you're like, well, what's going on? The midlife crisis type thing. Even now, this age group, things are breaking down, and so wishing that I had that male role model to still kind of give me that advice and counsel. And fortunately, he had left enough lessons for me, prior to his departure, that I got a glimpse into how I should behave as a man, as a father. That I think I did an okay job. I think that the kids and the family would say I did an okay job.
Well, I think it's got to be hard. I was in like a Walmart, talking with a guy in a country store area, and I had stopped to get some stuff for the house that we were staying in, and I have this deep conversation with the guy behind the counter who says to me something about fatherhood, and then we get into a little bit of a conversation, and he goes, I had to lose my dad to realize what it was like to become a man.
Mm.
And I said, man, that is a powerful statement, but I really hope I don't have to have that lesson to learn it. But I understood what he was saying is that it actually had him grow up in a way that changed the whole dynamic, that there was no more of what you just described. No more, hey, dad, did you go through this? Did you feel this? Do you remember this? It was, I got to deal with it and I got to go through it.
Yeah.
And
And the other thing I think, and I see things written about it now. I think as a man, your dad is the only man on the planet that wants you to do better than them, that wants you to supersede them. And, so to have that cheerleader gone, the guy I kind of, modeled myself after, it was, and to this day, I still kind of say, would Dad be proud? If he were here, would he be proud? So, it's still there. It still lingers to some effect.
Well, I think it brings up a couple of good points. Number one, I do believe that your father is the only human in the world. If you have a good one, and not everybody has a good one, but if you have a good father, to be a good father, you want more for your kids than you. Period. And that's in everything. You want them to feel loved more. You want them to be loved. You want them to have success. You want them all the things that you would want as a father, for them. And I think, mom is beautiful and nurturing, but they want you as theirs. And there's a difference between wanting you around and as theirs, and wanting you to be the best that you could possibly be, and a better version than the man that you showed them you were. And so I have this conversation with two sons all the time, having two boys. I'm like, listen, I'm imperfect. So when you point out those imperfections, I just want you to realize that's great. That's my goal, is that you don't repeat some of these same mistakes, and that you can be better. And maybe this same situation will happen with you and your son one day, and you will think differently. And, and I try to make sure they know that I'm not claiming to have it all figured out. Um, and it also helps as we get older. I think one of the hard things, Keith, is you were 28. You were finally getting to the age where you actually listen to him.
Exactly.
It's hard to listen to him before you're about 23.
Yeah, it is. The other dynamic that's interesting, I don't know if you're there yet with your two sons, but my sons, got to the point where they said, Dad, we're so tired of trying to walk in your footsteps. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, everyone expects us to be like you. And I said, I've never told you to be like me. I've told you to be the best version of yourself. And it got so bad, Scott, that, they were in college at the time. And I jokingly refer to them as Dumb and Dumber, because they're a year and half apart, a year apart, rather. And they ended up dropping out of college, and they went to the Marine Corps together. And later on, as they got older, we had a conversation. They said, Dad, we wanted to do something you never did. You never went to the military. And because we did that, we knew we could do that and not be compared to you. And I said, well, gosh, you didn't have to go that extreme, but, it was important to them. And the thing I had to do, if I'm honest, Scott, is I had to make sure that I wasn't forcing who I was on them.
Yeah.
Right. And as a dad, you want to see some of yourself in your sons particularly, but you also have to realize they're their own people. They have their own journey. They have their own race to run.
Two things. Number one, Teddy Roosevelt. I just recently finished a 3 or 4 part series on his life, and part of the Rough Riders and all the parts of his life that he was so driven on military service and adventure, and a lot of that came from his father not fighting in the Civil War. And the interesting dynamic is how his father felt about not having done that, and how he received that pain that his father felt of inadequacy, and how he would never feel that. And so, so much of our journey is based on that father-son relationship.
Big
And it's
time.
very, very powerful. And it goes back historically many, many years. And something that you just mentioned that I think about all the time, and that is, I've had a different type of success. My dad had a success in the way that, he grew up in a house where his dad wasn't present, where he wasn't rooting for him as much, where he wasn't, it wasn't the relationship. My dad was home every day. He was a blue collar. He is blue collar. He worked till 4 o'clock. He was home every afternoon at the same time. He was present in our lives in a good way. He showed up. He didn't quit his jobs. He was highly successful, not in the same way I've been successful, completely different worlds. And so for me, what my boys are going to go through is a uniquely different experience that I did not go through. And so, that's something I think about all the time. And that's great share there for me as well, because just having your son say they would go into the military, immediately you're like, that sounds great, but do you want to risk your life? I worked hard so you didn't have to. You
Yeah, yeah,
realize that.
yeah. And the other thing they realized too is I came of age, right at the end of this, the Vietnam War, and so the last thing I wanted to do, in 1976, was to, enlist in the military, and
Right.
so it's different, but I think the good thing is that and it's funny now that I'm older and they're older. I'm the smartest man in the world now. Dad knows all now, but I knew nothing 20 years ago.
Yeah, I've always got my mom's back in everything. I've been that kid because I had a lot of similarities to my mom's personality, and that can be a very unique good thing, but when it's your father, that can be challenging. And now I walk out into the garage. We have Sunday dinner every Sunday night, and I'll walk into the garage and I'll be like, "Man, Dad, mom's doing the same thing my wife does all the time. This how are you dealing with this?" And he cracks up. He just sits back and kind of giggles inside now. So it's also some of it starts to come back to you.
Yeah,
And I think there's a lot of years where you feel like you're the only one in the room and nobody even knows you exist. And fatherhood can be a very, very empty place. But again, I'll go back to what we talked about in the beginning, faith. I go back to how many times do we need our faith when we're going through a desert, when we're going through that challenge, when we're going through the worst part of our life. And that's when we lean in, right? But what about all the times that we don't pay attention, or we go in our own desert away from what we know to be the most important thing in our lives? And your father is the centerpiece.
exactly.
And it's amazing what you could do if you actually lean into that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny you talk about life. Life to me is a series of valleys. You're either in a valley, coming out of a valley, or about to go into another one. And was talking to son of mine the other day, and we was talking about the valley of the shadow of death. And I said, well, son, here's the thing about shadows you got to realize. One, they're not real. And two, if you ever get scared of a shadow, turn your back to the shadow and look for the light, because shadows only exist when there's light. And he thought that was the most profound thing he'd ever heard. I think I stole it from a pastor, but the fact of the matter is,
Hey, that's the
you
pastor's
got
up
the
there talking
message.
for you to steal it. That's good. So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you, and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.